Ink blending is a technique I do the most when I make cards because I love colors, especially bright colors if you know me. Any tool that helps me achieve amazing ink blending, I'm all for it. Today, I'm excited to share with you the release of new blender brushes from Tailored Expressions. Hello and welcome, I'm Gayatri. In this video, I'm introducing Tailored Expressions' new blender brushes and spinning storage caddy. I am also going to review these brushes for various techniques over the next 3 days. The brushes retail for 49 US dollars and the caddy retails for 17 US dollars. So let's get started. Here are the brushes in the caddy. How beautiful are they? I love the spinning caddy, but the brushes are amazing. They have colored handles, which is genius because you can assign red handled brush to red shades of ink pads, blue handled brush to blue shades of ink pads. You know what I mean? The bristles are white, so you can see what color you have swiped on your brush, which is great. The bristles are soft and thick, and I am hoping they pick up the colors beautifully and blend beautifully. The create detail on the brush handles are a nice touch. I am very happy with them. The whole package of brushes and the caddy will add to the aesthetic in your craft room. That's very cool. In this release, there are also two new stencils, the Wavy Stripe Stencil and the Scattered Floral Stencil. I will be using these stencils along with other older stencils from Tailored Expressions to create various backgrounds for the card. So let us begin blending using stencils in this video. For the very first background, I am using the new Wavy Stripe stencil. The ink colors I am using to blend are Lollipop, Fruit Punch, Candy Corn and Lemon Meringue. These are all Tailored Expressions dye ink. I have assigned the pink brush to Lollipop, the red brush to Fruit Punch, the orange brush to Candy Corn and yellow brush to Lemon Meringue ink. I'm using these brushes for the first time, so let us see together how they go. The brush picks up color very well from the ink pad and applies very well over the stencil. No tugging and the bristles do not fall. Depending on the pressure applied as well as where you hold the brush, the ink applies softer or heavier. I start with light-handed application, so if I want to go multiple times to build up the color intensity, I can do that. I start with Lollipop, which is the pink color, and then go over to the Fruit Punch, which is the red color. Then I go back over to Lollipop to blend the two colors together. I follow the same process for each of the colors to get a very good blend. I also go back multiple times of each color to layer and build the color intensity until I am happy with it. I have certainly sped up this part of the video because I am very slow in ink blending, and if I leave it in real time, this is going to be a very long video. Now, talking about how you hold the brush to get different applications. If you hold the brush on its handle, you get a softer application of color because you do not have a very good control over the head of the brush. So when you apply, your pressure is less and you get a softer application. If you hold the brush on its head, then you get a heavier application of the color. Having said that, you can apply less pressure even if you hold the brush on its head to get a softer application. You will have to see which technique, which way you hold the brush is comfortable for you and what you prefer. I prefer to hold it on its head because the handle is made of plastic, and if I by accident apply too much pressure, it's bound to break. And I like to keep those beautiful colored handles. So I prefer to hold it on the head of the brush. Also, by holding the head, I feel I put less pressure on my wrist and therefore it is more ergonomic. You see me cleaning the brush here. I don't know why I do it. You don't need to, because I don't think I need to do it because I have one brush assigned to each of the color. But habits are hard to change, I guess. So here is the blended background using the wavy striped stencil. Next, I'm using the scattered floral stencil. I'm going to change it a little bit. I sponged the lemon meringue ink on the card panel with a heavier application on the top of the panel, fading to white towards the bottom of the panel. Then I place the scattered floral stencil over the top of the panel and sponge the lemon meringue and candy corn ink a bit heavily to get the tone on tone look. Okay, for the third background, I'm going to use an older stencil called Shattered. I went for a rainbow of tailored expressions colors here. So I have used Plum Punch, Cookie Monster, which is the blue, Lime Zest, which is the green, Lemon Meringue, obviously, which is the yellow, and Candy Corn, which is the orange, to apply over the stencil. The brushes apply ink so effortlessly over the stencil and gives me a very good blend. I love these brushes. Here is the rainbow background using Shattered stencil. For the next background panel, I want to change it up a little bit. I want to use a dark colored cardstock and a lighter color ink using the brush. So the cardstock I'm using here is called Eggplant, which is from Tailored Expressions. And I'm using the Spiderweb Stencil, also from Tailored Expressions, to sponge Sugar Cube pigment ink using the blender brush. The brush picks up and applies pigment ink very well. In fact, you need less layers to get the intensity because the pigment sits on top of the cardstock, unlike dye inks which gets absorbed into the cardstocks and fades away. To add depth and dimension to the panel, I sponged Plum, Plum Punch, Eggplant and Oreo inks on the edges of the panel. Now I have a beautiful spiderweb background panel to make a Halloween card. Then I want to show you how to use one brush and three shades of the same color to achieve an ombre background. This is an older tailored expressions stencil I'm using. I'm using Lollipop, Strawberry Milkshake and Cupcake tailored expressions dye ink to achieve the ombre effect on the background. I start with the lightest shade, which is the Cupcake, followed by Strawberry Milkshake and then the Lollipop. When going from lighter to the darker shade of the same color, you need not clean the brush. But when coming back from darker to the lighter shade to blend, it is good to wipe off the darker color ink so you can actually pick up the true mid-tone shade or the lighter shade to blend. And here is the ombre background using three shades of pink using one brush. Okay, for the final background, I am using the big balloon stencil from Tailored Expressions to sponge inks in ombre as well as layer them to make a balloon background. I'm using one balloon from the stencil and the stencil has 4 different balloons. I mask the others so I don't by mistake sponge inks into the other ones and ruin my background. Again, these brushes pick up colors very well and apply it effortlessly over the stencil. No patchiness and it's very easy to fade the colors. I used the pressure technique to get the ombre effect and then went back with more heavier application to where I needed more intense color. I wipe off the stencil after each color to avoid contamination of the previous color onto the new one. So I have shown you a few backgrounds made using the blender brushes, dye, pigment and hybrid inks from Tailored Expressions. using Tailored Expressions stencil on white as well as colored cardstocks. Here are all the background panels I have made. To clean the brushes, I wipe them off on a microfiber cloth a few times and onto the scrap piece of paper to see if all the inks are off the brush. And here is what I think of the new blender brushes. They are amazing. Love that they are all of the same size. White bristles are fantastic to see the color of ink on the brushes. The color coded handles are genius, and the create print detail is a nice touch. The color coded brushes are great to assign them to their corresponding shades of colored ink pads. The brushes pick up colors beautifully and apply effortlessly over the stencil. If you already use makeup brushes, you know how much these brushes have changed the ink blending game. These new color coded brushes from Tailored Expressions is a must have if you love ink blending or even if you're starting out new on this technique. Depending on how you hold the brush and how much pressure you apply, you can manipulate the application of the ink. The brushes are very ergonomic to use. The Spinning Caddy is just awesome. I know I have used only Tailored Expressions ink in this video, but tomorrow's video I'm using Distress Oxide inks using these brushes. So stay tuned for that video. Here are the finished cards using the backgrounds I made. I have a corresponding blog post on my blog and I will link it down in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow's video is on ink blending on paper using these brushes and die cutting. See you then. Bye.